Welcome into Road to the Draft, presented by Raymond James. Casey Phillips here with senior writer and editor Scott Smith, and we are back like we are every week during draft season, every football fan's favorite season, to talk about what the Buccaneers might do and anything that has happened lately that might change that. So, of course, it was very easy the last few weeks with free agency affecting things to have a lot, but now that has settled a little bit. Some of the dust of that has settled a little bit, and so we thought this is a good time to look at all those delightful mock drafts and what everybody else is saying the Buccaneers might do and what they're saying some other teams might do and how that could affect us. So what are some of the things you've noticed while you have scoured the world for all the mock drafts and all the opinions out there?
Yeah, you know, you and I both just went to the NFL owners meeting and back and drove there, and I don't know about you, but I used Google Maps. So this is sort of like that. On this road to the draft, we kind of know where we've been going. Now I'm going to stop and let somebody else guide the way.
Yes.
On this road to the draft. And so if you look at Buccaneers.com, every Monday we do a roundup of some of the mock drafts out there because there's millions of them.
Yes.
And you get an idea of what outside sources think the Buccaneers could do or will do. And we've talked about some of the things that maybe I've predicted that we do, but we thought we might look at some other sources. For instance, Daniel Jeremiah of NFL.com, he predicts that the Buccaneers would take Travis Jones, a defensive tackle out of UConn. We've talked about some defensive tackles. In fact, the last time we did this, I think, I suggested the Bucs might take Georgia's Devontae Wyatt, but also talked about how the fact that Wyatt had a good combine and he might not make it to pick 27. So if the Buccaneers want to address this position, and Wyatt's off the board, which he already is in Daniel Jeremiah's draft. Wyatt's already off the board, so he gives us a different defensive tackle. And it's another dynamic guy that can give you some pass rush help from the inside. And I know the Buccaneers, especially if Ndamukong Suh doesn't return, would like to get some more youth and some more pass rush impact in their interior line. So Travis Jones could be a good pick. Now, if you look at some of the other mock drafts, like Chris Trapasso of CBSSports.com, he gave us a safety. Lewis Cine, another one of these incredible Georgia defenders. There's so many out there that are going to go in the first two rounds. And I can see that. I can see the Buccaneers going safety. Even though they picked up Logan Ryan, they could still be looking for some help there for the rotation and for the future because Jordan Whitehead, as we know, departed. Mike Edwards is going to be potentially be a free agent next year. So sometimes you're looking for a player that can help you a little bit right now, but could also figure in your plans in the years to come. And Jason Light in recent years has done a good job of drafting a lot of defensive backs in like the second and third rounds, and it's paid off for most of them, and it's allowed the Bucs to sort of continue to develop the secondary as guys hit that second stage where they need a second contract, and either they get it like Carlton Davis or they don't here like Jordan Whitehead. But if you look at a lot of the other mock drafts, even though the Buccaneers traded for Shaq Mason and did re-sign Aaron Stinney, who seems like he has a good shot at winning one of the starting guard spots, there's still a lot. In fact, I would say the majority of predictors out there still think the Buccaneers are going to take a guard. And the one that showed up in a whole lot of mock drafts this past week, which you can see if you go to our mock draft roundup on Buccaneers.com, is a guy we've talked about before that I've actually mocked to the Bucs before they got Shaq Mason, and that's Boston College guard Zion Johnson. That's a guy that a lot of people that are predicting these drafts and doing these mock drafts think is a guard who his stock has risen in recent weeks, but still probably is there in the back half of the draft where the Buccaneers will be picking. So that's some of the guys that the outside sources have been predicting for us. The safety from Georgia, Lewis Cine, and then Zion Johnson still, and then Travis Jones, the defensive tackle from UConn.
And then I know we kind of talked about this on our latest Insider, but when you look at the guys you just talked about, who of them might have the best chance to help the Buccaneers this next year? That we know there's one thing to pick a guy that you see as, oh, he could help us for the next 10 years, but maybe it takes him a year or two to develop. But when you are in very much a win-now mode, which of those guys do you think would be the most likely to be a win-now person?
It would probably be Travis Jones for me, and that's because I think the type of player that you could pick at 27 here that could make an impact for you right away is going to be a player at a position where even if you have established starters, you usually use a rotation, and that's defensive end or edge, outside linebacker, edge rusher. That's defensive line. You always are rotating those guys. And then, of course, we don't know if Ndamukong Suh is coming back, so you may actually have an opening for a guy to compete with, like Raheem Nunez-Roches for that third spot when you're in your base 3-4 defense. So, to me, it's any position where it's rotational. So Zion Johnson, I think you draft him if you think he's got a good shot at, say, beating out Aaron Stinnie for the job, but there's no guarantee that guy is playing.
Right.
And if he is playing, he's replacing a guy that you already have. So you didn't really add anything to the guys that will be playing. You may have upgraded in your mind if that's the way they feel, but you didn't add another person that can have an impact right away. To me, it would be most likely be Travis Jones because he could figure right into that rotation.
That makes sense. All right, well, that's going to do it for us on this edition of Road to the Draft presented by Raymond James. We will be back here next week to talk about any developments that might affect what the Buccaneers are going to do in the draft. We'll see you then.